Ta-da, look at that. Oh, we color coordinate. We look good today. Hey guys, happy Friday. Today is Friday, September 28th. I can't believe it. It's the TED Show, episode 251, with my beautiful and talented friend, Christine Cabrera. So let us know you can hear us or see us. There's Maggie in the background. We have some people popping on. I don't know if you know the story. Karen Brown Witt is on. Amrit, what's up? Give us a thumbs up. Let us know you can hear us or see us. We got that. I just did a whole show once and people watched it and then nobody could hear it. Awful. Can you believe that? So I'm excited to have you on. Thanks for being patient. We're a couple minutes late. We were actually doing a photo shoot and having a great time. We've got some big announcements for the TED Show coming up. But I've been looking forward to this all week because Christine is one of those people that touches your heart right away. And so she's got a great story to share. And so welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. All right, so we always like to know, the audience wants to know a little bit of background on you. I shared your bio, which I thought was really well written. Occasionally I get a resume here and there, which always makes me giggle because that's not really a bio. I'm not good at writing bios, so I'm not judging anybody who doesn't have a good bio. But tell them a little bit about you, your background.
Sure, I'd love to. So this is a second career for me. I'm now a realtor with the Figueroa team, powered by Remax Innovation, and it's been an exciting new adventure. I get to meet wonderful people like Ted.
And I didn't even have to pay her to say that.
And other people who are just relocating into the area, who really want to create positive change in the community and make impact in their families. And I get to help them build a legacy of wealth through smart investments in real estate, and I'm having a fantastic time.
All right, so you said it's a second career, so give us a little, hey, Danny, oh, he's so sweet, he's awesome.
Danny was my rock star realtor, so I was actually a client beforehand.
Nice, and, he's so talented.
He trailblazed for me.
Morning, Elizabeth, he's so good, I love him. All right, so but give us a little background. So you're from the north.
Yes, I'm from New York originally, born and raised in the Bronx, and in the last 25 years or so, I lived in Queens, Sunnyside, Queens, which I called home for a while. And, you know, just basically really had I guess a rough start, like most of us, working class family. My parents were mostly working, and I was a turnkey, you know, child who had access to our home and walked home from school and really had to sort of grow up quickly. I had an older brother who was an overseer, and he was 4 years older than me, who had to kind of just make sure we were getting home on time and getting started with homework. So I learned a lot of responsibility very quickly.
Are you there's all boys in you, right?
That's right. I have an older brother, 4 years older, and a younger brother who came when I was 12. So
wow.
There's a huge age gap.
That's a change of life, baby.
He's the best of us, and I'm super proud of him. He's a doctor today and
oh my God, that's awesome.
Doing amazing things. So
Eric Rawlings, what do you think's in the mug? Seriously, happy Friday. It is not coffee, for the record. I never claimed it was coffee. All right, but you had a career. You became an educator.
Correct.
So talk about that, because that's on the opposite ends of the spectrum from sales and marketing in the real estate world.
That's right, it is. I became very conscious of, I guess, myself and growing up, my experiences and the people who I was surrounded by. You know, there was always choice. You can go down the road less traveled, or you can certainly follow the crowd. And I just didn't follow the crowd. I struggled for sure. Academically, I was a slow reader. I was a struggling reader. And in the third grade, started to sort of slip between the cracks. I wasn't a problem child in the classroom. I was one of the quiet types, the one that the teacher doesn't pay attention to quite often. But in fifth grade, a teacher of mine just saw something in me, saw that I was making tremendous progress, and she just wanted to hear more of me. Awesome. And so she chose me to be Annie in the school play, and there I was, somehow or another, finding a connection between this like redheaded, you know, freckle-faced orphan, and just dancing on this stage. And I think, you know, I constantly drew back to that experience. You know, there are teachers and people who just find something in you that you haven't uncovered, no one else, you know, has taken the time or doesn't have the time to identify. And from that point on, although I wanted to be a veterinarian, I love animals. I dedicated myself to trying to connect with students in the same way and creating that level of impact. And so I decided to major as an English major at Hunter College in New York City.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and then I became a teacher.
So let's, first of all, the Annie part was not in your bio.
No.
So at some point you're going to have to finish this show with The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow. Or we'll have to do a few
It has
bars.
come out. Here
we'll
I
have to
am.
do, that's right. We're going to
The
have to
sun
do
is
a few
shining.
bars of that before we head into the weekend, which is an awesome thing. Do you have to wear the red wig too and all that good stuff?
I didn't. So we kept it a bit authentic. I wore the red sweater, and I think I wore a skirt or something to that effect.
I love it.
And I just, some of the wonderful memories I have is just walking up and down the stage singing "It's a Hard Not Life" for us.
I love that. All right, but don't you think, so I love what you said. I have a teacher, I have several teachers, several mentors from growing up. Jean Heater's one of them. She was my third grade teacher. She occasionally pops on the show. I still keep in touch with her from third grade, which is before the dinosaurs walked the earth. Not that she was old. But that makes such an impact. And I think that education and our education system, we don't realize we sometimes are the only people who are making an impact on an individual like you. There could be something going on at home. There could be something like a learning disorder. There could be anything going on. And when the teacher takes time, you never forget it. I know people, I could ask anybody on here, tell me about your favorite teacher. And then Dan Pacheco.
Hey, Dan.
I love him. He's
do
just
I.
a wolf. I can't even do it. Woo, I don't know how to do it. But I think that everybody has that person, that mentor, that coach that made a difference and helped change the trajectory of your life. And how awesome, and that's why it makes me crazy that we underpay that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
That our educators don't get the monetary reward for what they do. A lot of times they are mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, caregiver, and
Yes.
those teachers, those educators, when your kids leave, they're still on their mind and on their heart. So I think it's amazing that you had somebody that you remember.
I had several people, and the good thing is we all know, and I've spoken with you about hosting Teacher Appreciation Days and working with you on that. So I never forget. I know lots of people who do not forget. The demands of the classroom have changed, and that's okay. I think part of my work is also helping parents understand what are those demands and how can you support the teacher, how can you build a bridge between the classroom and home so that you're working together. And that work excites me on the side, and I do that for fun now. But
so you're still practicing in your passion.
I think so. I think I'm, utilizing this platform to continue to connect and reconnect with that energy and the good souls that are there. I had plenty of people who were really beacons of light, sort of like if a plane crashes, you're going to have a beacon of lights that you need to follow. And I had many of those, and they seem to all be in school. During the hardest times of my adolescence, I came out when I was 14, so at 13 years old in the 8th grade, I kind of knew I was different. And maybe not in the cool way so much. I mean, I was no longer Annie on stage performing. And so my audience had changed, and it became a little bit more negative, and it became a little bit more challenging. And I ended up finding people who, continue to encourage me and understand that I was who I was. There was no changing that. And there was still love and admiration in me, but at the same time, it was a really difficult thing for my family to deal with. So I had to face those on my own, and I basically was a runaway teen for a while, a gay teen in New York City.
Where do you go? We've talked about this on the show a few times. Where do you go? Were there resources when you're a runaway? There's so much going on, and the city, if you're especially New York, they can't keep up with every runaway. Did your parents try to come after you? Did you just go, I just need some time away? Because it's such a big thing that's going on, but you still can't. You don't have a checking account, a bank card, a credit card. You have to figure out how to live.
Yeah, thankfully it costs only 75 cents to jump on the train at the time from the Bronx to New York City. I think first and foremost, I kind of pulled away, and once my parents divorced when I was 14, I told my mom I no longer wanted to live there in the Bronx. I was going to go live with my dad, which was very devastating for her. And so I went to live with him, and my aunt, who's a fantastic artist today, and I'd love to share some of her work with you, ermelindacortez.com.
What is it called?
ermelindacortez.com. You can find her, I'm sure, everywhere. And, she embraced me, and she heard me, and she basically took me into Manhattan and said, here's the village, here are your people. Everyone here is unique and different and embraces their uniqueness, and basically that's all I needed.
So she accepted you immediately.
Exactly.
What was that like being a teen coming out? Because we, Come Out with Pride, I had on Jeff Prestico yesterday with Come Out with Pride, and I think because we were talking about how important it is to remember that National Coming Out Day is October 11th, 10th?
Dan.
Dan, thanks for putting that up. But that is still the core of it, because a lot of times that is such a big, and it can be such a traumatic announcement. And so what was it like? Did your family, you obviously had an aunt, thank God, because a lot of people don't have anyone. I'm not minimizing what you went through, but how beautiful that you had Ermelinda Cortez to help you out. It's a little different. It's not as, it's definitely not as, I feel like it's not as crazy as it probably was when you came out. We've made progress. So did you go, all right, so my life's over, or did your aunt come in and say, all right, I got you, Christine, we're gonna figure this out together?
She did try. Of course, being an adolescent, I pushed many people away and wanted to figure it out on my own. I didn't want to be hurt again after being sort of disenfranchised by my own family. And, it's all I needed just to see the setting and begin connecting with people. So I intentionally would leave late at night when I thought my mom was asleep. And I would go into the city, and I would stay all night at Port Authority, where I would meet lots of people and just watch them sometimes, just people watching. And just very curious about people. I've always been very curious about people. In fact, just to tie in the real estate piece, I was early prospecting at 3 years old. I used to prop up a big chair out in the front of our building in the Bronx, and I used to wave hello and goodbye to people coming and going.
Do you think that's a natural thing? Were your brothers like that? Was your family like that?
We're all very sociable. So my parents were very sociable. In fact, I commend them for being very socially responsible.
Thank you,
they taught us social responsibility, very early on, before it was a thing. My dad would, if a homeless man was begging for food or for money, he would buy him lunch or buy him breakfast. And my mom was one who would say, no, we don't have the funds for those new sneakers, and let's go buy some groceries for a friend in need and help me carry them. And so they were very socially responsible in that way. And so I liked people. I was curious about people always, from very early on, very young.
Oh, so what did you do? You eventually made your way down to Florida.
Right.
So what's the journey there?
The journey, that's a great question. The journey is simply, it was, a lot of pain, a lot of discovery, and a lot of disconnecting from, family, and connecting and identifying a spiritual family, a family who would accept me and love me. And once I felt I was stable in my own feet, I would reconnect with family, and my mom became ill. She needed a kidney, and it was a point in our life where I could either look back and be really resentful of times where I thought I needed her, or I could focus on the times where I didn't reach out and needed her, but she was always a model of, finding my passion, being myself, not following the crowd, which is really what any parent is going to try and instill in their child when they can't have no other means of pulling them out of an environment. It's just where they are and at the moment. So you want to save your children from being a product of that environment, and you send these messages and you hope that it reaches them, and it did. And I just wanted to reconnect with that and keep building from that. And she just always had a lifelong desire to be in Florida. And during that time when they were divorcing and, you know, I was going through my puberty, we were all as a family trying to stick with a budget. I remember my mom putting a budget on a 3x3 piece of paper and keeping it in her purse and saying, you know, if it doesn't fit the budget, we can't make it happen.
Wow.
And the budget was all about buying a home in Florida, you know, meeting this financial goal of saving up $10,000 to come relocate here. We had spent summers here. We were very fortunate in that regard through some sacrifices and great money management to come here for vacation. My friends did not. So we knew it was special. We knew we were special in that regard. And so, you know, she came out of surgery. They found a mass on her kidney, and they said, you know, she basically almost left, but we needed to get her on the kidney list, get a donor in place. And she said, I don't want to do this in New York anymore. I really want to be in Florida. And so I said, let's make it happen, Mom. We'll do it, you know. And once I helped her get settled in here, and again, I was transacting. I think I had 7 transactions or 8 transactions before I even got licensed, just advising friends and family. It became a no-brainer. Like, why don't you do this full time? Because
sure.
You've
why don't you do
helped
real
us.
estate
Why don't
full
you
time?
do this full time?
I've got a question about your mom, though.
Sure.
So the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that sometimes as kids of parents that aren't necessarily the most understanding, or you don't have the best relationship, you have to still make a choice as an adult of how you're going to let that impact your life and how
Yes.
it's going to impact how you interact with them, how you interact with other people. Parents, I just want to encourage you 1,000 times over, everything you do and say to your kids, they remember, and everything you do and say, everything you model, they're going to take with them. So be super cognizant of that. We always joke that they mimic, and they do mimic, but they also pay attention, and it's many memories that you wouldn't even know that they hold on to. So when you're making that decision with your mom, you still have the like you said, you still could have gone the resentment route. So how do you, as an adult, because I think there's a lot of people that struggle with that. A lot of adults struggle with it. We're still that little kid that's the hurt kid. So many of us are still in that mode. You can pretend you're not, but we all have that mode where we're still kind of that kid especially when it comes to our parents or our loved ones that are older. So how did you make that conscious decision? By the way, every time you speak, it's so poised, and I love it. It's got heart, but you're speaking from the heart, but you're eloquently, I'm gonna get that word, speaking. But how was it with your mom?
So, there were a few things that I did, and just to circle back to parents, kids are listening and watching. We say the good things, we say, hurtful things. So they're paying attention to both, and they only know that you love them. They do, and so of course the painful words are very painful.
Very.
But the words of encouragement are there as well. So, if you could keep and just try as best as possible to keep those words of encouragement, I think they definitely go a long way. I did a few things that, of course, leaving, right? So I'm not encouraging homelessness and being a runaway, but leaving and disconnecting, literally snapping the branch from the tree and saying, I'm going to allow myself to experience other people like my aunt who may love me and accept me unconditionally, and I'm going to understand what that means for me, and then I'm going to try desperately to bring that back home. And that's basically what I did. So after living in the city and meeting some really unique people, I managed to meet up and partner with someone who wanted to travel across country. I had big dreams, and we went to San Diego, California. And there, again, I just met people in different walks of life, and we found connections. Didn't matter your socioeconomic status, your culture, your race or ethnicity. We had things in common, and that really resonated for me. And I began, trusting that there were others like me, trusting because that trust had been broken. And
it's
went
very
back
hard
home.
to come back from that. So, but people can't do it. You can you can come back from it. People will watch the show sometimes and say, oh my God, I don't have the strength of Christine. Okay, listen, at the time, she didn't know she had the strength either.
No.
You go through it and you push through it and you try to progress one step at a time, 1 minute at a time sometimes, just to get to the next minute. But you have to celebrate every minute. You have to know, okay, I'm moving forward, I'm not going back. So sometimes it's incredibly hard for people to give themselves that kudos, and then they get caught up in, well, I haven't moved as far as I should.
Right.
But you've moved. You've progressed. So Tony Figueroa, we got to give a shout out to him.
Yes,
He's watching from Vegas. We love the Figueroas and the Figueroa team so much. All right, so you became a mom.
Yeah, so I came back to New York City from San Diego, and I was passionate about studying. I wanted to go to college. I had been told by so many that you were not college bound, you were career ready, but you were not college material, and I believed it. And so there was a huge delay after graduation. I again, fortunate enough to land opportunities at JP Morgan. I was the microfiche girl of the floor.
The microfiche. I bet nobody on here even knows what microfiche is.
is.
By the way, we love you too, Lulu.
Microfiche was basically the copier of the day, the way of,
I
really.
forgot about
yeah,
microfiche.
I know. And
wow.
so you know my story's authentic, exactly. And so JP Morgan was like, wow, these people really know how to talk. They know how to make money. They know how to make decisions. I want to do this. So I thankfully began studying at Hunter College, open admissions. They just basically give you a chance and you have to make it happen.
I love it.
And I did. I just learned so much. I started really initially just kind of as an undecided major. I thought I wanted to do, physical therapy. I wanted to be a marine biologist, maybe veterinary studies. These were things that I was passionate about. But in reality, I just allowed myself to go. So for those who are listening, who are just starting college, like whatever you're passionate about, I took an art history class and I was like, whoa, this is mind-blowing. I love it. And then English just became my channel to just, again, storytell and hear other stories. And when I heard other powerful women, I started to really look at my family's legacy, the women in my family, and was able to have a conversation with my mom about tracing our roots and realize that my grandmother was pregnant with my mother when she left Puerto Rico. And, she was ostracized for being too dark. She was ostracized for having an affair, a romantic affair after being a widow. And was, had my mom and came here to America without any knowledge of anyone here, work, language, and I just tried so hard to channel that and understand her position. And from that point forward, it seemed, I started really attributing everything to her and what she set out to do. Some of the areas where my mom had let her down. My mom was a teen mom, which spoke a lot to the mistakes that she made and how my brother and I have forgiven her and found forgiveness. She was only 15 when she had my older brother and 19 when she had me. But she knew education was important. She knew sticking with that was basically our way out.
That was instilled in you.
It was instilled in us.
That's awesome.
Was our way out. And she always lived and continues to live with the deep-rooted regret that she didn't pursue her studies. And so I just kept forging forward and loving studying rather than it being a burden to make this happen so my mom could be proud. I actually loved it because of the people I was meeting in text. And so, when I became a classroom teacher, I just wanted to share my passion with these kids in East Harlem. I was in Spanish Harlem out the gate, and the kids connected with me and the parents connected with me. I just understood their situation. They were always apologetic, wanting to be more connected, wanting to be more involved, and we truly were a learning community that said, we've got this, just get them here on time, and we'll take care of the rest. So it was a wonderful early career in education experience that I draw from.
You obviously
constantly.
draw from it because you can tell you're passionate about it. You have a fond memory of it. It's reminiscing in a good way, because a lot of
Yeah.
time nostalgia is not always
Right.
positive. Dan Pacheco, yes. You want to go further than ankle deep. Wendy, we love you. Shelley, we love you. I just like to give shout outs when
Yeah,
they send
absolutely.
stuff. All right, but
Thanks
then
for
you
watching.
moved down here.
Yeah.
But you became, so one of the things I get asked, and then I'll let you tell your story, is people that know sort of part of my story, which I try to share occasionally on the show. How did you figure out how to be a parent after dealing with basically, in my opinion, two diagnosable narcissists as parents? How did you want to be that? Where did you find that from? I don't know the answers to that. I think I was born with it.
That's
It's
a
grace.
fantastic question.
So how did you go? All right, I had this. I've forgiven my mom. I get it, right? So you've moved on. You've done what's good for you. Super, what's good for you, and then of course what's good for her. But now all of a sudden you're going to embrace the one thing that you didn't necessarily have.
Right.
So how do you go? How do you say, all right, I want to be a mom, a parent?
It's a great question, because I thought I had, the way out. I'm a gay woman. I'm not going to get pregnant, so I don't have to worry about that.
Because she was born also. It's true.
I don't have to worry about that. Like, I've got the free card here. I'm going to totally make things happen. But I did love children. I guess, again, drawing from my experience, I did want to connect and make impact in their lives. I did want to reach in, and I wanted to find the Annies, and I wanted to say, you know, you can do awesome things. And I ran with that. I just kept going forward with that. My principal at the time wanted me to immediately track me into a leadership role and become a school principal, and I felt like I would be so disconnected from the kids at that point and enter into politics, so no. And eventually, one of the lifelong passions was to own a home. So I, basically remained disciplined around saving money and bought my first home when I was in 2003. And I'd only been teaching for about 4 years and saved enough money to purchase my first home. And there I was in the suburbs, surrounded by a lot of traditional families, and I had this beautiful house, and I was enjoying being a homeowner. I was a big DIYer. I figured if I can get a degree, I can read a book, and I can build a wall, and I can put up drywall, and I just did a lot of great projects around the house and really enjoyed that. And then started to sort of look around and see this beautiful home and realize there wasn't a life in it, I think I needed children in it. So thankfully I had a very young niece that I could have every weekend, and my brother would, allow me to spend time with her, and I just enjoyed being with her so much. And part of me hoped and wished that parenting would be that way, and then part of me knew it wouldn't be, because I always get to give her back, Sunday night, Monday morning.
Right.
Picking her up from school was such a joy. She'd run and be so happy to see me. But yet, as a teacher, I knew this wasn't going to be the real experience, and so I didn't want to parent. And then I started to entertain maybe I could. And at the time, I just really wasn't partnered with someone who wanted that, and so we went our separate ways. It was 2007, just before the market crash. I learned tons about getting my house ready for the market, and really that bullet just skinned me. I just sold in October of 2007, and
Nice.
I took that money and I went to Greece, and I just
As you
continued.
should.
Yeah, and I kept meeting people, and I kept just setting intentions around meeting great people and just working from there. I just wanted to connect with awesome people. And that was it. And I did connect with someone I'm with now for 10 years, Sally Leslie.
Sally.
Shout out to her. She's not on. She's working.
Shout out to
Yeah,
Sally.
and Sally and I met in January of 2008, and we were in common places, like not really interested in parenting, really just want to figure this out, want to heal from the past, spending time together, love the arts. Let's just, pack our agendas with artistic things to do. And we had a lot of fun together doing that. And I asked her, would you like to meet my mom and take a trip upstate? It's beautiful. We can go hiking. There's lots of lakes around. It's really serene. And she was like, yeah, totally, of course, let's go. And we took a random trip to my mom's house, who at this point is an empty nester herself, and has foster children that she has on a regular.
That's right, she was fostering kids.
She was fostering kids.
That's right.
She had suffered a stroke and now had faced early retirement and was sort of in her own depression around that. And we decided, to just pay a visit. And on that visit, we were literally talking with my mom for a while, and she's laughing. My mom has this great sense of humor. She's the kind of energy you want to be around. And suddenly, this little soul walks by us at the table with the saddest face we had ever encountered. And again, mind you, we frequent museums. We're both in tune with art. And we have this connection where we can see art together and enjoy it, and we both see this, very broken soul that approaches us. And he has no words, he cannot communicate, and my mom says his name, she tells us his name, and that she doesn't understand a word he's trying to say.
Wow.
So I turn to this young soul, he's 4 years old, and I ask for his hand, and I stick my hand out, and he sticks his out, and I shake it really hard, and it just creates all these giggles up and down his body, trying to introduce myself to him and saying, it's nice to meet you, and he just lit up.
Did you know right then? Did you know? Did you go, oh my God? Or did you have to go, because I know that
Right.
that's a big undertaking. So foster care, first of all, any foster kids, God bless them. Anybody who takes foster kids in, if you're doing it right. God bless you.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
that is a big, I don't know, that must have been a big moment for you.
It
Did
was
you
a big
immediately feel like, all right, I think I might have met the person I'm going to be mom to? Or what were you thinking at that moment?
No, not at all, not at all. It was a moment of just, again, connecting with children in the way that I always loved connecting with children, in the way that I craved connection to people with when I was that age. Remembering that earliest memory of putting that chair out front and wanting to greet everyone. I wanted to connect. So I always connected with children in that way. And so it was merely a connection, but we were also, her and I, in a place where connections weren't coincidental. We were exploring various religions, especially, because we were shut out of many religions for being gay, right? So that was great. All right, if you don't want us, we're going to explore Buddhism, and we're going to explore Kabbalism, and we're going to explore meditation, and we're going to explore all these other avenues of connecting with a higher power, because we trust and believe, based on our experience and what we've gone through, that there is a higher power at play here. So the connection was relevant, certainly, and we were all in on that moment, and we've obviously reflected often on it. Sure. She was not at all interested in parenting, and I don't think in my heart in that moment I knew he was going to be someone I would adopt. He was just simply, in my heart, a very broken soul, and I was very concerned for him, and I wanted to understand his circumstance in a way that I hadn't really been curious, maybe to the depth that I was at this point, from the other foster kids that my mom had coming through. And there were many foster children.
So you have this connection, obviously, but then, like you said, you didn't know at that moment that would be a child that you would adopt. I know you had considered, you wanted to be, something in you wanted to be a mom in some way, shape, or form.
I was exploring, yeah.
You were exploring. So when you make the connection, then does it happen right away? Do you all of a sudden go, all right, I want to be his mom? I think a lot of people don't understand how the process works. And it's not just the nitty-gritty process, it's the internal process, the faith, the family, the discussion, trying to figure out what you want to do and is this best for him and for the child and for us.
Right.
So did it go fast? How did it work?
No, not at all. It was multi-layered. In fact, initially it was simply maybe I'll come around a little bit more and spend some time with him.
I love that.
Remember, my relationship with my mom is strained. In fact, I'm bringing Sally and trying to really sell this landscape so that, she can accompany me. She can be this connection and this level of support for me on this visit, because anything can go wrong at any time.
Can I digress on that for just a second? I've got a question.
Sure,
I've got a question because so when you mentioned it again about how your relationship was strained. So because I had zero to no relationship with my parents, to watch them with other kids was painful for me because they were so good to those kids and not to me. So as an adult, as you're watching your mom foster children, are you like, why couldn't you be like that for me? Where was this for me? Sorry if that's a painful thing. I think about it as an adult sometimes, and I'm like, oh my God, you were so nice to every other child on the planet, except when it came to me or my brother. There was none of that nicety. So where was that? Why do you have it for another child and not for me?
Sure, and that is there, that was there. But there was also forgiveness there. There was the exercise of forgiveness because I was trying to heal, and I had sought experts to try and heal, lots of therapy, and initially free. Back to your original question, what is there for a gay teen? There's a lot of free services in New York City. I don't know that there are here, but I was fortunate enough to connect with the Hetrick Martin Institute, who takes runaway teens in for counseling. They introduced me to photography, which is, an interesting sort of pain point for me. I love photography, but it always brings me back to that very vulnerable state where they're working with me to understand and help me to heal, and then I have this new medium to sort of connect myself with the world, and so now it's sort of a private hobby that I have. And so for my mom, I tried to understand. I love her, obviously, deeply, very deeply. And so I was always trying to forgive and understand, and I knew that there was some part of her that was trying to heal, and she was doing a good thing. These kids were in need, and she provided shelter for them, and then gave her the opportunity to look back and hold herself accountable
100%.
Where she couldn't for us. She couldn't, if we try to confront her on things, she just couldn't. It was just awful, and we have too many of those episodes to reflect on and try and clear up today. But for those children, she could give them what they needed in the moment, and build from there and continue to heal herself and her own regret that we knew she was carrying.
So good.
Yeah.
So what it is, and somebody else, and Zebra Coalition, you're right, for gay youth here.
Oh, great.
They're an
I'm gonna connect with them.
amazing organization. Heather.
Excellent.
Heather Wilkie. No, it's Heather for sure. But Heather does, that whole organization is absolutely positively the only one in town that really takes gay youth in, especially those that have been kicked out and have no place to go.
Nice.
All right, so you get a son, though. You get a son out of this.
I get a son out of this.
Okay, so you get a son, and like you said earlier, Sally may or may not have been on board, but you have to make a decision because that's what you're led to do, and that's what you want to do. That's what your heart and soul tell you.
Right. So, I stayed in curiosity. We talk about that a lot in business and, self-improvement. Stay in curiosity, and I did. I remained committed to visiting him every weekend. And so on a calendar, because again, he has no cognition, very limited cognition, very limited speech. His birth parents are substance abusers, so there's some indication that he may be fetal alcohol. And so learning disabled, right off the bat when he enters school. I show him a calendar and I say, I'm going to be here every weekend, on this day, and circle it. And later on, my mom starts to tell me that he's asking, around Wednesday, what day is it? So he's getting familiar with this commitment of showing up on the weekends, and I build from there, while at the same time also building my relationship with Sally, where we're just very, young, organic in our relationship. It's just kind of friends with benefits. We're just having a good time. Really enjoying each other's company, and so what might this mean? I don't know. She didn't either. That's fine. We'll build from there. So these things are happening in tandem in my world, but completely, in a way, disconnected in theirs. But of course, they had their own unique connection because she then wanted to be in my company on the weekends, looked
Right.
forward to spending time with me, and that meant spending time with my son as well. And so we were now a unit, and we were always spend time together. She would bring a puppet. She had a puppet we called Leslie, and it was one of the Muppet puppets. And she would bring the puppet, and we would communicate. We would create a safe space for him to communicate, and we began building language for him and building relationship, and trust. And to me, just all the fundamentals first before identifying this is the one, and that's organically happening between her and I as well. We're just making sure that these are the fundamentals that are important to us first before we attach a label to it.
All right, so you have a beautiful son. How old is your son?
He's 14 today.
Okay, so, and how long has he been, when was he adopted? How many years ago?
So it took about a year and a rigorous application interview process. Of course, I adopted him alone as a single mom. I had a very impressive, application. I was at the time a senior executive at the College Board in New York City. I was earning a 6-figure salary. I had a fantastic apartment all to myself.
Oh my God, you were the perfect adoptive parent.
I was the perfect parent, and initially they said, oh no, there's no way you're gonna adopt this child. You have no affiliation. His birth family will have the first opportunity, and you will be last on the list. If anything, your mom is going to be a contender because she's been fostering him. So I said, okay, then I'll get certified and I'll be his foster mom. Of course, my mom, as I said, was a stroke survivor, and already, I think she was in her 50s at the time. So she really didn't feel she had the energy for him.
Of course.
She wanted to be a grandma,
Right.
rightfully so. So we put, our heads together, and I said, I'm gonna try and make this happen. Like, I'm gonna stay curious and pursue this. And they kept saying no, no, no. And so many meetings, I would sit in the foyer waiting, and they would just not even acknowledge me. But I did become his foster mom, and for a year, he was allowed to live with me, and they monitored us closely to see, progress and see in the ways in which I would adjust my life to fit him. So the schooling that I chose, aftercare, or the way in which I would manage my schedule. There was no aftercare, which became a problem for, as a senior executive, of course, of a corporation. I wanted to build that trust and let him know when the kids dismissed, I would be there too. He wasn't going to stay in this sort of holding pen.
Well, because at that particular, what a lot of people don't understand about foster kids is they're moved around so much. They've also come from a crazy background most of the time.
Yes.
And so there's a trust thing that you're trying to build. So if you say you're going to be there at 3 o'clock on Friday,
So much
you
pressure.
need to be there at 3 o'clock on Friday, because immediately they will just chalk it up to yet another disappointing adult that's not going to come through for me in my life. And so, all right, so tell us about your relationship now, because he's 14. I saw a picture. He's a handsome young man. And how has that been the last 10, is it 10 years? How long have you had him?
It's been 10 years.
10 years,
yeah.
okay. So how has that been? Parenting, as anybody who's a parent knows, there is no rule book. There's no instruction book. You go through it and you make a lot of mistakes. Just ask my kids. You make a ton of mistakes.
Yes.
And you don't mean to, but you're a parent, you're a human being. You only have one point of reference, no matter how educated you are or how big your heart is. There are still things that you don't understand and don't know how to cope with or address in the right way. So he's now 14. Talk about where he's at.
So, right off the gate, I did then become an approved opportunity to adopt him, and I think that was sort of May 2010, and June 2010. And while we celebrated the adoption and it being finalized, so it was our finalization day, in July of that same year, so just a month later, the College Board said they were going to dissolve my project, my program. And so now, as a single mom, I'm unemployed.
Wow.
That's the first experience I'm going to have now.
Wow.
So of course it made, I was 100% available for him now. But I was also 100% knee deep in worry and concern that I couldn't sustain the life that I had built over time. And now, of course, raising him. So first and foremost, I just locked arms with, ironically, Irish Catholics in Woodside, New York. And and they were just so welcoming and loving and available that as I was making my parenting decisions, they were just there to say, yeah, that's right, or, that's wrong,
right.
Or maybe you should try this. But they were just a very welcoming community, and I enjoyed immensely the parent community that I built there. And it was, great school community as well. They embraced me. They embraced our family. Eddie was baptized in that church. Sally baptized him, so she became.
Oh, that's so cool.
For those who had trouble with our non-traditional family, Sally was his godmother, because she had baptized him. And for him, in a learning community, that's how he could identify her, and it would be a safe space to identify her.
Sure.
And we built our family from there. And he was met with all the challenges of any child who has an absent father. So lots of questions that he had to deal with. And he, at times didn't feel there was a void or a concern. I played sports with him. I loved playing baseball with him. We played, quite a few sports. He loved swimming. That's where we connected often, in the pool. And he was actually a competitive swimmer in New York. And we built from there. And, he always felt very much like we were his bookends. We were his rock. We kept him stable and safe. We made sure his track was clear, his path was clear. But he was always challenged by his peers, by those around him who are also challenged to ask, what do you have? What's your family like?
That's correct.
And if this is leverage I have over you, then I'm going to use it to my advantage, despite, the reality of their home front and their growing up experience. They're going to try and challenge and try and help themselves along the way. So he was faced with those challenges, and he's, today he says he knows how to identify those people a little bit better, those who are going to accept him and accept his family. And so we think that's a big win, but he still has a long way to go. He still has a huge, path ahead of him. Abandonment.
He's got the abandonment. Yes.
He's got, no matter what we've described, he feels there was something he did. He was full of energy. He was a difficult child. He still has
most
challenges.
Most adopted kids, like my wife's adopted. Mm-hmm. So most adopted kids at some point in time, they've got to ask the question, why did you give me up?
Right.
And I don't know how you can't naturally go to the place of feeling there's an abandonment there. You have to try to figure out how it's amazing that you're in a better life, and that's what Stacy had, an amazing life compared to what she would have had, because we found her birth parents. That was a nightmare. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so important for people to know that just because, you've given him an amazing life that he wouldn't have had, but it doesn't mean that the kids don't feel it so deeply that it impacts their soul and their psyche, and no matter what you do, they still have that thought, wouldn't you?
Right.
Why did you give me up?
Right.
I mean, you can't negotiate that away.
One of the other challenges they face is, or rather you face, because your original question was, what was that internal process like for me? So, I make this commitment and I'm sticking with it. And now I'm faced with, I'm not good enough,
Right.
Because he misses them, because he's questioning, because he wants to look back, because his memory seems to be vivid, or his memory seems to be skewed, and only I feel I know this because I was raised around people like his birth parents, and I'm able to forgive them. They were teen parents, they were first generation here, they were poor. The father didn't speak English, similar to my grandmother. She found a way, he wasn't able to.
Right.
And that's okay. That happens.
Right.
It doesn't always happen on a first generation coming to America. Sometimes it happens in the second or third generation. And so I was able to sort of make peace very quickly, but he was now going through his own internal struggles, and so with that, he would either severely misbehave as a way to try and uncover, what can I do so that you can get rid of me the way they did?
Right.
So now
Really
I'm
self-sabotage.
Yeah, and so
Absolutely.
I'm challenged there, and then it's also, well, I'm not going to show gratitude that we're visiting London or that we're going to these great places, because since they couldn't do it for me, then what you're providing for me is not good enough either.
It's a very interesting spot to be there, because you've got your own stuff, your own background, then you've got his stuff that you're dealing with. And I think all parents in some way, shape, or form, we bring our baggage to our kids. There's nothing we can do about it. I'm sorry, we do. And so you bring your baggage, but it's the amount of baggage and then how you handle it amongst there. I mean, my kids were treated completely different than I was, but that doesn't mean that craziness I dealt with didn't somehow come into it. All right, so we're going to have to do a part 2. But I want to talk really quick about legacy, because tell me why that was how you started it out. That's your bio. Right. You said you want to build and leave a legacy. Does that have to do with Eddie? Does that have your son? Does that have to do with your work? Tell people what you're trying to do with that.
Yeah, I'm trying to help people build a legacy of wealth. Of course, first and foremost through smart real estate investments. But I really want to help them understand, and they may not immediately, that real estate is something you can leave your children. You're building
That's
equity. True. You're building wealth. It isn't like a car purchase. This property, this purchase is appreciating over time. Even though the market goes up and down, yes, that's a reality. So you live through those times. You stick with it. You find the right place where you're gonna, stay put with your family through those rough times, and inevitably cash out. So if your first decision as a young couple, a young family, is to purchase, it's the best one. It's a great one. Not renting as an easy way out. Right. Being able to pay for your child's college tuition, being able to buy them a dorm, and then cash out on that property when they finish college to pay their tuition. Like, these are the families that I'm interacting with.
I love it.
And I just feel a sense of pride around that, because I think my grandmother came here pregnant with my mom to build an opportunity for change, to educate, to open up other avenues. And while my mom may not have immediately benefited from that, I think she had 3 great children, a doctor, and my older brother's an engineer, and me. And
you're a great child.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, you're a great child.
And I just, at this point with my son, it's about, the statistics are out. The statistics are out about culturally, what a Latino male is supposed to achieve here. And then the statistics are out about a Latino male in foster care. And I'm looking to break that barrier. I'm looking to impact a better life outcome for him. His very early word was map. We had a huge map. It was Columbus. In fact, we're having the anniversary of it now, because it was a Columbus Day project, and we had mapped where Sally was from. She's from England, and how they came on the Mayflower to the New World. And we had this map by the kitchen, and one day he walked by and he just said, map. And from that point forward, we're just very in tune to the fact that he loved travel, he loved planes, he loved anything to do with maps. And today he's in a wonderful private school, learning aviation, and he's flown twice. He wants to be a pilot, and
of course he does.
I'm over the moon about what we've accomplished so far, and so much more to come.
All right, so we definitely have to have a part 2. We have so much more to talk about. I knew it would go long. It's fine. I loved every second of it. So we're going to share all of Christine's contact information, how you can reach out to her. I mean, she's so open, right? Everything's poised. You're so good.
Thank you.
Because you're speaking from the heart, but you're also speaking from the heart in a way that you emote, yet you're not angry. You emote, and yet you share. And I think that's so important when people are trying to figure out what you're thinking, and then when people want to try to relate to somebody. How can you not relate to Christine? She's awesome. All right, any parting words of wisdom for them before we head out?
I'd love to work with you if we have an opportunity to collaborate. If it isn't real estate related, you don't know anyone close to your heart who would benefit from the level of service that I provide, then let's collaborate on other projects. I'm sure that I spoke to you in some way. Thanks for tuning in. And you can reach me on my Facebook page at Christine Cabrera, Orlando Realtor. And there's certainly a link there to schedule some time with me. My calendar does get pretty busy because I get to meet and collaborate with wonderful people like Ted. And just continue to be your best self. Stay in meditation with who that is. And meditation does not have to be a mat in some dark room with great music. A meditation can happen in a bathroom stall. And sometimes it does.
Agreed.
And stay connected to who you are and keep moving forward.
All right, you're a joy. I love you to pieces. You're
you.
amazing. Isn't she amazing? All right, so all my realtor friends, today is the last day to vote for your Aura directors. Super important you guys get out and vote. I'm going to do a Freedom Friday if I have a moment to talk about voting in general. Don't worry, I'm not going to get all political on you. But I want to talk about the privilege and the honor of being able to vote. But get out and vote. I did the link earlier on my page. If you're a local realtor that's part of Aura, you've only got till 5 o'clock. Please vote. Vote for our wonderful directors. We have a few that are on, wink, wink. Whom I absolutely love, and that's who you want. You want somebody to support you, so it's in this. You can make a difference in your local organization like the Orlando Regional Realtors Association, and you can certainly make a difference in our local and our national government. So we're going to talk about voting, and I just wanted to throw that out there because it literally ends at 5 o'clock today. And since this is a Realtor Showcase show, I figured it was all right to say, you're a joy, you're a love. She's amazing,
Thank
right?
you, Ted.
So her story is so good and so pure. Somebody said that earlier. So we're going to share all of her information when we're finished with the show. Please reach out to Christine if you need anything, if you have any questions about anything. She's as open as we all are. When people come on this show, they know they're going to have to be open to any kind of questions or comments or reaching out. And nobody comes on this show not knowing that that's going to happen. So reach out to her. How could you not want to? All right. We love you guys. Happy Friday. I'll be back later on at some point. I'm about to go on a podcast, Thriving.
Nice.
So I'm very excited about that. Candace will be on soon. Love you guys. Mwah.
Cheers.